All right, let's dive into the astrology for December 14th through December 20th, 2025. Kaleigh is also not here again this week. We've had some challenges, which is accurately reflected in the astrology that I was talking about last week with the Mars square Saturn. I do feel like it wasn't that it was downplayed, but that had got a lot more drama than I think maybe we were discussing. And that kind of continuation tensions is what this week is all about. So let's dive into that. And to kind of just set the stage, I want to call out some of the major things from the Mars square Saturn last week, which was a lot of really kind of severe weather in the United States, at least, like really bad snow and winter weather, and kind of again limiting travel. So that's kind of big with Sagittarius often being represented as like the travel sign. And then Saturn, of course, limiting in that. There was also a really powerful earthquake around like Japan and other regions. And then we also saw what I think is what I was trying to explain last week with like unclear action, which is what we're seeing this week with Mars squaring Neptune right off the bat on the 14th. But, you know, that Saturn Neptune conjunction is so close that a lot of what we think we're fighting for, fighting against, isn't often clear. And so I think a lot of that was represented just with the United States getting involved in Venezuela. I understand, I guess, some of their logic and reasoning, but also, why are we doing that? With everything else that is going on, what is the point of that? But again, it's like taking this weird action off of this belief that by attacking Venezuela and beating all the cartels there, we're going to solve all the drug problems in the United States. I don't know. So that sort of kind of disruption, chaos, a little bit of confusion is what we open up here on the 14th on Sunday, as Mars is going to finish this out with a square to Neptune. And again, there is just like some confusion with the fact that what we actions we want to take, and then like why are we taking this action? So what is the exact outcome or purpose or reason behind it? Or are we so motivated by some idealistic dream and vision that we can't quite, understand what we're doing? It's like having these rose-colored glasses on about what we're doing, what we're fighting against. And in general, in your own life, it can just look like trying to take a lot of action on something that feels really powerful and important. And it's something you've been working through the past month since Mars has been here in Sagittarius. But maybe the outcome is confusing, or maybe there are pieces you're not clear in what direction you're actually heading. Like you're putting all this effort into something, but you don't know if it's going to pay off or if there's actually going to be a result from it. I think there's just that. It's like Saturn represents big long-term work and big long-term hardworking effort into something to build up a structure that will withstand, earthquakes and season and time. But Neptune can make that very confusing. You can have trouble distinguishing between what is real and what is not. And I feel like we even see a little bit with that last week when Mars was squaring Saturn, was like, well, we're doing this because we're fighting against this regimen or this, powerful structure, but like, is it actually important or not? Or is it just we're so caught up in the moment that we can't quite see clearly? And so that's something to keep in mind going into this week. It's not just Mars that's affected by Neptune, it's all the other Sagittarius planets too. They're further away, and it's something that will play out more, but they're all being kind of in this square just by sign, just by traditional astrology. So there is a lot of like unclarity. And I know we talked a lot about Mercury going direct, bringing clarity, but we're not quite there yet. We're not quite out of the weeds yet with everything. And so I think that's just probably what we're going to experience for most of this week. Like, this is definitely the tone going into this week. But there is some gift to it after Mars has that confusing square to Neptune, which again will be in this energy for all week. Mars will then move into Capricorn, and now we have a really nice Mars, or one that, I think for the most part we can enjoy. And I love Mars and Capricorn because I like a regulated Mars and one that is focused and, powerful, but in a way that is constructive and driven. And now we're going to work better with Saturn. We're not going to challenge Saturn. We're going to work with Saturn. And that is Mars and Capricorn. It's exalted here in traditional sense. And it's a place where Mars can really put in a lot of work and get a lot done because it's being guided by the Capricorn boundaries, the Saturnian. This is what we're focused on, instead of Mars just kind of being hot-headed and reacting more emotionally to things. And I think we can really contrast that with when Mars was in Cancer, which was early this year. It feels like an entire lifetime ago. But back in like January of 2025, that's when we were dealing with a lot of Mars retrograde in Cancer all the way up through April. So your things were feeling slower then. It's like kind of the opposite of that. It's like we're really feeling driven and really willing to accomplish and take action or probably start something big in our lives. So you want to use this next month and a half. Mars is going to be in Capricorn until later January. That is a really powerful month. Like, set goals for yourself, set things that you want to see achieve, or just get more organized in your life. You will have the wherewithal, the ability to do so. So I do like that. That's like our one positive shift for this week as terms of like being more focused and driven. And we're going to have a huge stellium in Capricorn in later December. So wherever that house is in your chart, you also want to be paying attention to it, as like that's going to be a place where a lot of energy, time, and work is going to go into for a month, a solid month, honestly. On the 16th of Tuesday, we will then have, sort of slowly building up to this new moon, the sun, it's going to come into a square with Saturn now. And again, very similar to the previous week with Mars squaring Saturn, but the sun squaring Saturn is kind of like, the opposite of Saturn. The sun is our life force and how we want to show up in the world, how we want to shine, how we want to really, express ourselves and be free and just share our identity and have people look up to us. But Saturn is the opposite of that. It's more about the environment, the overall structures that you're part of. It's about everyone else. Ruling Aquarius is more about society and government. So there's an inherent conflict with the sun and Saturn, and we will really again feel that as like the sun wants to be free and expressive, especially in Sagittarius. It wants to take risk and adventure and go out into the world. It wants to just kind of say what it wants to say and get on with life. But the square to Saturn is sort of like this limiting feeling of, you know, you have these responsibilities, or you're being, held back, or there's like criticism, maybe from yourself or from other people, that bring you down a little bit. All these placements, though, in Sagittarius are technically what we would say an overcoming square to this Pisces house and to Saturn and Neptune here. So it's like, last week with Mars squaring Saturn and Neptune, and earlier this week, it was like having to take action and work harder to overcome those limitations. And then the same thing with the sun here is having to trust yourself more, having to believe in yourself more, or to, generate maybe not necessarily your ego more, but to just generate your self-worth more to overcome where you feel limited or where you don't feel like enough or where you don't feel like you have the faith to move on or you feel more bogged down by work and responsibilities. So it's like kind of having to overcome these limitations in your life so that you can still move forward with the vision or the belief that you have or whatever your is that you're creating in Sagittarius. So it is not pleasant energy. I don't think it's very much challenging energy. It's energy you can again overcome and you will get to the positive side of it, but it feels limiting. Like it just feels like you have these ideas and these purpose and this direction, but the process to getting it there isn't as straightforward as you thought it would be. And that is kind of the tone, fortunately, we're setting with the new moon that's going to happen on the 19th. So a couple of days, or really 2 days after that sun squares Saturn, we're then going to have this new moon in Sagittarius that is right here. Very cute. And with this stellium a bit with Venus very close by. However, this new moon is definitely in a square to Neptune that will go exact more into the 20th, but I'm going to talk about it in this example now. And, this new moon is very much a Jupiterian new moon. It really does want to have this big, beautiful vision and like dream come to life. It's feeling very inspired. It really wants to excel. It wants to, Jupiter is all about achieving the next height in your life, expanding to the point of that next big power or overlook or achievement or accomplishment. It is like very much the planet that rules kings and winning and leaders in that way. And in Sagittarius, again, it's the fire energy of a creative vision or just an inspiration or a risk or something that is compelling you to do something because you feel so passionately and believe so much into it. So this new moon is really desiring that. But it is again heavily influenced by Neptune and by Saturn, where this vision becomes so abstract that it's hard to bring it down to earth. Like it's hard to contain it in a way and define it into something that's a physical, literal manifestation. Now, granted, we're trying to do that with Mars and Capricorn as an earth sign, one of our very few earth placements that we have right now. And if you know in astrology, like Earth is the only sign, the element where things actually happen, that things actually materialize into a physical form. Like I have to keep drilling that in because I feel like sometimes people tend to overlook that fact because we see and we feel physical forms in our life all the time, but like the true things that compel us to say the things that we say or to take the actions that we take are often not physical things like our thoughts, our emotions, and our fire and our passion. So fire is really like our life force and like our theory around why are we alive right now and why are we fighting this fight or this dream, like what is this purpose in life in a way? And there can be a feeling of really wanting to initiate that beginning for yourself, but just so much confusion around again, how does it actually materialize or how do I even make this happen? It's kind of feeling like you're so abstract with your thoughts that the ideas of it actually coming together seem so far away. Or maybe it's sort of having to challenge your beliefs too. I could see this new moon at the very sort of end of Sagittarius representing a change of beliefs or a challenge of beliefs. And with Neptune, maybe letting go of some older ideals or older kind of opinions you've held about how life works or how what you've been thinking, this is the plan, this is the direction, this is what this is all about. And then you get to this new moon and it shatters those delusions. It's like, yeah, actually, everything you've been believing in doesn't work for you anymore. Um, in this chart, as I'm also a Leo rising, but also in this chart in Leo rising, like a concrete example could be this is the fifth house, right? So this can be things like children or creative projects or hobbies or just self-expression and creativity in that sense. So as we're moving through this fifth house, I may, or this person may be having a certain belief that this is what they're creating, this is what's important to them. But then they have these challenges pop up from the last week where their creations may involve like a little more help. They need money, they need funding, or they need a collaborator. And they're running into these challenges where that collaboration is not happening or the money is not coming in. So we get to this new moon, and it's this sudden kind of shift and realization that maybe that creation is just not actually what I need to be creating on, or what that is the real purpose of my direction. Maybe I need to realize that my energy needs to go somewhere else, or maybe I've had too much faith in the Pisces house, in the funding or with the collaborators. And the reality is that that's not there. So that changes what I'll actually be creating in a way. Sorry, my cat. Say hi, everybody. So I have a lot of kind of mixed feelings about this new moon, honestly. I think it kind of can be disappointing in a way that you'll take off some of the rose-colored glasses and recognize that, things aren't exactly as you thought they would be or as they seem. But there's also always hope with Jupiter ruled signs. That means that if that path is closed and if that direction is not working for you, then there is another direction and there is another path to go down. You just have to find it for yourself. And that process can be a little shaky right now, but we have Mars and Capricorn this week to just start taking some action, to just start taking those steps, to start making the plan, to create the vision, and to actually put work into it. And when we actually put work and manifest something and boots on the ground and make it happen, we can literally see in front of us, right? This is going to work or this is not. So, kind of moving away from theoretical ideas and dreams and seeing what's actually going to work now. And collectively, it can literally be moving away from these are all the things that we said we were going to do. What are we actually going to do with this budget or with our time? And what is that going to mean for everybody? So, I don't know. That's all I had for you this week, though. Um, Definitely a challenging week in terms of just not having clarity, and definitely be mindful of the information that you're consuming or taking in, that everyone is under these astrology skies, so everyone may be a little bit more ungrounded and unclear with what they're saying and what they believe as well. So just be patient with people and be patient with yourself. And maybe don't make any life-altering decisions this week if you can help it. That's all I have for you today. If you want more content, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Two Girls Talk Transits, and then we'll get back to posting these videos on YouTube. And yeah, let us know how we're doing, how you're doing, what's been coming up in your life. We'd love to hear from you. And please rate the show, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.